You see, most people think being an empath means you're soft, you're vulnerable, you're the one who always gets taken advantage of. They assume you're walking around just waiting for someone to hurt you, break your heart, and leave you in pieces. But let me tell you something, a super empath is a whole different breed. We're not talking about someone who just feels things deeply. No, this is someone who sees everything. Someone who walks into a room and can read the energy before a word is even spoken. Someone who's been through hell and came back with clarity, not bitterness. That's the person who can not only survive a narcissist, they can dismantle one. Now let's talk about why. Why is it that the narcissist who thrives off of ego control, manipulation, and charm cannot coexist with a super empath for long? Because the super empath sees behind the mask. See, narcissists wear this well-polished image. They want you to see what they want you to see. They manipulate stories, twist realities, gaslight, love bomb, all to keep you hooked, confused, and doubting yourself. But the super empath, oh, they don't play that game. They might fall for it at first, sure. They might believe the lies in the beginning because they want to see the good in people. But once they start sensing the cracks, once that intuitive radar starts pinging, it's only a matter of time before the entire illusion comes crumbling down. And what makes the super empath even more dangerous to the narcissist is that they don't need them. See, narcissists target people who will feed their ego, people who will revolve around them like planets around the sun. They need supply. But a super empath, they're the sun. And once they realize that, the narcissist grip starts to slip. The moment an empath sees the truth, they shift, they stop reacting, they go quiet. And let me tell you, that silence, that's deadly to a narcissist. You know what happens when you stop reacting to someone who feeds off drama? You starve them. You take away their power. Narcissists need you to be emotionally involved, yelling, crying, chasing, apologizing. That keeps them in control. But when the super empath steps into their full awareness, they stop responding emotionally and they start watching, studying, strategizing. They become calm, clear, cold, even not out of cruelty, but out of survival. And that's when the narcissist begins to panic. They're not used to that. They're not prepared for someone who doesn't play by their rules. Most people who get caught in the narcissist web don't even know what's happening until they're already drained, isolated, and confused. But a super empath begins to recognize the patterns, the fake apologies, the blame shifting, the triangulation. They see it all. And instead of reacting, they detach. That's the beginning of the end of the narcissist. Let me tell you something else. The super empath doesn't destroy the narcissist with revenge. That's what a narcissist expects. They expect drama. They expect rage. But the empath, no, they destroy the narcissist with growth, with peace, with absence. They walk away and don't come back. They start healing. They glow. They evolve. They become even more powerful than before. And the narcissist who once thought they had control is left confused and broken, wondering how someone they thought they had wrapped around their finger slipped through the cracks and became untouchable. And I'm going to be real with you. Sometimes it takes a betrayal to activate this kind of strength. Sometimes it's getting cheated on. Sometimes it's being lied to over and over again until the truth can no longer be denied. That pain, it wakes the super empath up. It turns the light on. And once it's on, it never goes back off. From that point on, they're a different person, sharper, wiser, stronger. And the narcissist, they start to feel that shift. They realize they've lost their grip. And nothing is more terrifying to a narcissist than losing the one person who could see their soul and still love them until they couldn't anymore. Because here's the deal, a super empath will love you with a kind of depth most people will never understand. They will give you their heart, their energy, their loyalty, their truth. But once they realize you betrayed that love, once you cheat, lie, manipulate, it's over. If you don't get that version of them back, you don't get the real them anymore. You get the version that's detached, elevated, and out of reach. And that's how they destroy you, not through hate, but through absence, through the withdrawal of their light. So when I say only a super empath can destroy a narcissist, I mean it. Because they're the only ones who can look a narcissist in the eye, see through every layer of their mask, and still walk away without flinching. That's power. And the narcissists, they never recover from that. Let me tell you something, real narcissists are addicted to control. That's their whole game. They walk into your life wearing charm like a tailored suit, knowing exactly what to say it, how to make you feel like you're the most special person in the world. They're not looking for love, they're looking for leverage. Every move they make is calculated. Every compliment has a hook. Every apology is a reset button designed to keep you doubting your gut and leaning on them. And most people, unfortunately, fall right into that trap, not because they're weak, but because narcissists are masters at reading vulnerabilities and disguising red flags as fireworks. But here's where it gets interesting, because that power they think they have, that control they're so proud of, it starts to crumble the moment they're dealing with a super empath. At first, they might not even realize it. The empath is loving, open-hearted, supportive, everything the narcissist thinks they can manipulate. And for a while, the empath might overlook the gaslighting. They might excuse the inconsistencies, explain away the emotional coldness, forgive the moments of cruelty. But what the narcissist doesn't know is that while they're playing the game, the empath is taking notes. They're observing. They're starting to connect the dots. Because the empath's power isn't just in how deeply they feel, it's in how deeply they understand. Eventually, something shifts. The super empath stops reacting the way the narcissist expects. They stop apologizing for things they didn't do. They stop trying to fix what they didn't break. They stop chasing after the narcissist's approval like it's oxygen. That's when the narcissist starts losing it, because now the empath is no longer playing their role in the script. And without that control, the narcissist starts to unravel. The false sense of superiority they built starts to collapse, brick by brick. You see, narcissists operate on a pattern idealized devalue discard. First, they put you on a pedestal. You're perfect. You're everything. Then, little by little, they start to tear you down. Nothing you do is ever enough. You're too sensitive, too emotional, too needy. But here's what they didn't account for. A super empath doesn't stay in the cycle forever. They wake up. And when they do, they don't go back to sleep. They stop arguing. They stop explaining themselves. They stop giving the narcissist access to their emotions, which is the very thing the narcissist was feeding on. And what's wild is this narcissist thinks they still have control. They don't realize that silence isn't weakness. Distance isn't disinterest. It's strategy. It's power. It's the beginning of liberation. The super empath begins to detach, and not just physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. And let me tell you, there is nothing more terrifying to a narcissist than someone they can no longer manipulate. Because now the control they thought they had, it's gone. The validation they used to get, gone. The emotional reactions that made them feel powerful, gone. And the narcissist tries to scramble. They pull out every trick, love bombing, guilt trips, fake apologies, promises to change. But it doesn't work anymore. Why? Because the empath has seen the pattern. They felt the pain. And now they've stepped into truth. They've started listening to their intuition. And once that happens, it's game over. And let me break it down even more. Narcissists don't just want your attention, they need it. They need to be the center of your world. Your thoughts, your time, your energy, it all needs to orbit around them. That's how they measure their worth. That's how they keep themselves from facing their own emptiness. But when a super empath stops giving that to them, when they stop responding to the manipulation, when they stop needing the narcissist's approval, it leaves the narcissist face to face with the one person they've been running from their whole life, themselves. That's what makes the super empath so powerful. They don't even have to do anything explosive to destroy the narcissist. They just have to stop playing. The game can't go on without both players. The narcissist is left holding their mask with no one left to fool. And that silence, that peace the empath chooses, that's the loudest thing the narcissist has ever heard. So let's not pretend this is about revenge. This isn't petty. This isn't dramatic. This is divine. The super empath doesn't need to throw hands or shout from the rooftops. They don't need to post subliminals or fight for closure. They become more grounded, more healed, more focused, more aligned with who they were before the narcissist tried to rewrite them. And that transformation, that reclaiming of self, is something no narcissist can touch, no matter how hard they try. At the end of the day, control is only powerful when someone gives it to you. The moment the super empath realizes they were never actually under control, that they were always free, it's a wrap. The narcissist can't control what they no longer have access to. And once that access is cut off, the illusion dies. And that's how it ends, not with a scream, not with a fight, but with a quiet, steady, undeniable shift that says, you don't own me. You ever seen a calm person suddenly light up with this unshakable fire? Like they were the most patient, compassionate, understanding person in the room until one day they weren't. That right there is empathic rage. And let me be very clear, this is not the same thing as regular anger. This isn't just someone getting mad because they didn't get their way. Empathic rage is different. It comes from betrayal, from being pushed too far, too many times, from loving someone who used that love as a weapon. And when it hits, it's not wild or reckless, it's righteous. It's divine. It's the kind of fire that doesn't burn the empath. It burns everything that tried to break them. And see, narcissists underestimate this. They don't think the empath has that in them. They see the patience, the forgiveness, the quiet loyalty, and they mistake it for weakness. So they push and push and push. They test boundaries, they cross lines, they betray trust, they lie, cheat, manipulate, and they think there won't be consequences. They think they'll always be forgiven. That the empath will keep holding the relationship together no matter how many pieces the narcissist shatters it into. But they're wrong, because there's a limit. Even the most loving heart has a threshold. And when a super empath reaches that point, when they've given chance after chance and all they've received in return is more pain, more games, more lies, that's when everything changes. That's when the empath no longer recognizes the person they used to love. That's when they stop fighting for the connection and start fighting for themselves. And this is what narcissists never see coming. Because that empathic rage, it doesn't look like yelling or chaos. It looks like silence, like boundaries, like clarity, like suddenly realizing I don't need you. I never did. It's walking away and never looking back. It's unhooking every single emotional tie and choosing healing over history. That rage doesn't destroy the empath, it frees them. Now, let's take it a step further. Let's say the narcissist cheats. Now we're not just talking about emotional manipulation. Now we're talking about betrayal at a soul level. Because when an empath gives themselves to someone, they do it wholeheartedly. No half measures, no games. So when they get cheated on, when they get lied to, disrespected, and discarded like they were nothing, it doesn't just hurt. It awakens something. That betrayal becomes the final spark that ignites the transformation. And here's where it gets poetic. The narcissist thinks they've won. They think they've moved on to someone else, someone better, someone easier to control. But what they don't know is they just created the very thing that will dismantle them. That heartbreak they caused, it becomes fuel. That pain, it becomes purpose. And the super empath rises from it all with eyes wide open and a heart that's no longer available for manipulation. You see, empathic rage isn't about revenge, not in the petty sense. It's not about getting even. It's not about making the narcissist feel the same pain. It's about reclaiming power. Reclaiming identity, it's about realizing I let you into my soul and you tried to poison it. But I cleaned it out, healed it, and now I'm stronger than I've ever been. That's the most dangerous thing to a narcissist. Not someone yelling at them, not someone stalking them or trying to hurt them back. No, someone who glows up in peace, someone who heals in silence, someone who walks away and becomes untouchable. And the narcissist, they start to feel that shift. At first, they don't believe it. They think it's just another emotional reaction. They expect the empath to come back, to beg, to cry, to ask for closure. But when none of that happens, when the phone stays silent and the door stays closed, that's when panic sets in. Because now they know. They pushed too far. They lost the only person who truly saw them and still tried to love them. And they'll never get that back. Let me say this plain. If a boy cheats, the worst thing you can do isn't to scream, block his number, or try to get revenge. The worst thing you can do for him is heal, elevate, move on, become so whole that his absence feels like a blessing. That's what a super empath does. They don't break down. They break through. And once they're on the other side, the narcissist becomes irrelevant. That's the part that stings the most, not the loss of control, not even the exposure. It's the indifference. The super empath goes from loving you deeply to not even thinking about you, from prioritizing you to forgetting you exist. That's a kind of destruction no narcissist can recover from because it reminds them that they never had real power to begin with, just access. And once the empath locks that door, it stays locked. So if you're a super empath and you've been through it, if you've been lied to, cheated on, manipulated, understand that your rage, that fire inside you, is not something to suppress or be ashamed of. It's your inner power waking up. It's your spirit saying no more. And when you channel that rage into healing, into growth, into becoming your highest self, you become the one thing the narcissist cannot touch. And that right there is how the game ends. You want to know the one thing a narcissist fears more than losing control? It's being seen. I'm not talking about the version of themselves they show the world, the polished, charming, flawless act they put on for friends, family, social media. I'm talking about the real them, the broken, insecure, manipulative version hiding underneath the mask. See, narcissists are terrified of exposure, not just public exposure, but emotional exposure. The kind that happens when someone truly sees through the image they've crafted and calls it what it is, an illusion. And you know who sees through it all? A super empath. A narcissist builds their entire identity around a lie. They create a false self-one that looks confident, successful, charismatic, desirable, but it's all surface. Underneath, there's a deep void, a fear of being unlovable, unwanted, irrelevant. And instead of healing that, they cover it. They create this image and then manipulate the people around them to validate it. They need constant affirmation, attention, admiration. That's their fuel. That's what keeps the lie alive. But a super empath, they don't just look at the surface. They look through it. At first, the narcissist is drawn to that. Empaths are compassionate, intuitive, nurturing. They reflect love, light, and acceptance. They make the narcissist feel important, special, even whole for a moment. But after a while, the narcissist starts to sense that this empath sees a little too much. They sense that the empath notices the inconsistencies, the subtle contradictions in their stories, the emotional coldness behind the charm, and that's when the narcissist starts to panic. You have to understand narcissists can't handle truth, not real truth. They can't sit in authenticity because authenticity threatens the entire false self they've created. So when the super empath begins to see them not the version they present, but the real them, they feel exposed, vulnerable. And instead of leaning into that and evolving, they do what they always do. When they feel threatened, they try to destroy the threat. That's when the manipulation ramps up. Gaslighting goes into overdrive. They start shifting blame, twisting narratives, flipping everything on the empath to make them question their own reality. And if that doesn't work, they move to character assassination, smear campaigns, lies. Because if they can't convince you that you're wrong, they'll try to convince everyone else. That's how desperate they are to protect the image. But here's what they don't realize: a super empath doesn't need an army. They don't need to defend themselves or play dirty. All they have to do is stand in truth. When an empath steps fully into clarity, when they no longer doubt what they feel, what they know, and what they see, that truth becomes louder than any lie the narcissist can tell. And that truth, it starts to dismantle everything. Because now the narcissist isn't dealing with someone they can control. They're dealing with someone who's not afraid to look them in the eye and say, I see you. Not the filtered version, not the edited personality, the real you, the insecure, approval-chasing, emotionally bankrupt version hiding behind the charm. And that kind of exposure, that's what breaks the narcissist. Not because the empath is trying to hurt them, but because the truth by itself is that powerful. The thing is, super empaths don't even need to shout it. They don't need to expose the narcissist publicly. Sometimes the most dangerous thing they do is nothing. No reaction. No fight. Just a deep, unshakable knowing and a refusal to keep playing the game. That's what drives the narcissist mad. Not being hated, not being confronted, being ignored, being irrelevant, being seen clearly and not desired anymore. Narcissists want to be chased. They want to be obsessed over. They want to feel like they matter so much that you can't move on. But a super empath, once they see the truth, they don't chase, they leave. Not in anger and peace. That's what leaves the narcissist shaken. That's the exposure that hurts the most. Because now they're faced with the fact that someone knew them, really knew them, and still walked away. And here's where it gets even deeper. When the empath walks away, they take the light with them. Narcissists don't generate their own light, they steal it. They reflect what others give them. So when the empath removes their energy, their presence, their belief in the narcissist, the whole illusion starts to fade. The narcissist isn't charming without someone to charm. They're not powerful without someone to manipulate. They're not confident without someone admiring them. The exposure doesn't just come from being seen, it comes from being left alone. Now the narcissist is left with themselves and they don't know how to exist there. The silence becomes louder than any argument. The distance becomes more painful than any insult. And that's when the reality sets in. They've been exposed. And the only person who could have saved their mask walked away and let it fall to the ground. This is why a super empath is the only one who can destroy a narcissist, because they don't need to fight dirty. They don't need to retaliate. All they have to do is see clearly, move honestly, and love themselves enough to let go. That level of truth, peace, and detachment is something a narcissist cannot comprehend and certainly cannot survive. And when it's all said and done, the empath doesn't need closure. They don't need to be understood, vindicated, or proven right. They just live, they heal, they elevate. And that elevation, that's the loudest truth the narcissist will ever hear. You know what a narcissist can't survive? Losing the emotional mirror they've been using to feel important. That's what a super empath is, a mirror. Not just a reflection of who the narcissist pretends to be, but a reflection of what's real, what's raw, what's right. And the narcissist, they latch onto that. They soak it up. They feed on the empathy, the validation, the love, all of it. Because they don't generate any of that themselves. They borrow it. They leech it. They absorb it like a parasite. And they think they're entitled to it because they're convinced they're the center of everyone's universe. But what happens when the empath stops reflecting? What happens when the super empath, after being emotionally drained, mentally exhausted, spiritually worn out, finally says, no more? What happens is something the narcissist never expects: a withdrawal of energy so complete, so final that it forces them to look inward. And that right there is where the collapse begins. See, narcissists don't do well on their own. They need someone to validate them, someone to affirm the image they're projecting to the world. When they're alone, that image starts to crack. The lies they tell themselves that they're superior, desirable, untouchable start to fall apart. Without someone to manipulate, they lose their grip on reality. Without someone to admire them, they lose their sense of identity. And when the person they relied on the most, the super empath, disappears from their emotional landscape, it's like ripping the plug out of the wall. The power goes out. The illusion goes dark. That's why narcissists often spiral after a super empath leaves. They may not show it at first. They'll pretend like they're fine, like they've already moved on, like they never cared to begin with. But behind closed doors, they're unraveling because they weren't just losing a partner or a friend. They were losing their supply, their source, the very person who made them feel relevant. And without that, they have to face the truth they've spent their whole life avoiding. Now, here's where the empath's power really comes into play. Because the super empath doesn't just walk away. They rise. They don't just stop giving. They start building. They channel everything they learned from the experience, every tear they cried, every moment they doubted themselves, and they turn it into growth. They become wiser, stronger, clearer. And that evolution, that glow up, that's not just healing, that's destruction to the narcissist's ego. Because remember, narcissists need to feel like they're the best thing that ever happened to you. They need to believe that no one will ever love you like they did, even if what they gave you wasn't love at all. But when they see you thriving without them not surviving, they realize they were never your source of happiness. They were just a distraction. And now that the distraction is gone, your light shines even brighter. This is when the narcissist tries to come back. It might be weeks, months, even years later. But they always try, not because they've changed, not because they're sorry, but because they miss the reflection. They miss being able to look into your eyes and see themselves as powerful, as wanted, as special. But the thing is, once an empath evolves, that mirror turns to glass. Now the narcissist sees themselves as they really are and they can't stand it. So they test the waters. They might reach out with a random message. I was just thinking about you. I hope you're doing well. I miss what we had. But it's not love. It's not remorse. It's a fishing line. They want to know if they still have access. Sure, if they can still step back into your life and plug into your energy. But the super empath doesn't fall for that anymore. Because now they know the pattern. They know the game. And more importantly, they know their worth. You see, the evolution of the super empath isn't just about cutting off the narcissist. It's about rising above the need for external validation entirely. It's about realizing that no one gets to define your value. No one gets to dim your light. No one gets to rewrite your story but you. And once that truth is embedded in your spirit, no narcissist, no manipulator, no emotional vampire can touch you. And that's what really destroys the narcissist. Not just the loss of control, not just the exposure, but the irrelevance. When you stop meeting them, when you stop missing them, when you stop even thinking about them, that's when they feel the full weight of what they've lost. And here's the truth. It's not that they lost you. It's that they lost access to the only person who ever saw them, loved them, and still gave them grace. That kind of loss, that sticks. That doesn't go away. So if you've ever wondered how to truly dismantle a narcissist's power, it's not through anger. It's not through revenge. It's through elevation. It's through healing. It's through choosing yourself every single day without apology. Because the moment you stop reflecting their image and start embodying your truth, their false power evaporates. And the narcissist is left with exactly what they gave you all along, nothing. Let me tell you something most people don't realize until it's too late. You can't win against a narcissist by playing their game. You can't out-manipulate them, outlie them, or stoop to their level and think you're going to come out clean. That's what they want. They want you tangled in their chaos, confused, hurt, defensive. They want you questioning your own reality while they sit back and play innocent. But here's where a super empath flips the whole script. They don't fight the narcissist with anger. They destroy them with unbothered peace. You see, narcissists thrive in conflict. They live for emotional reaction. To them, your frustration is fuel. Your pain is power. When you're angry, crying, yelling, pleading, they feel in control. It reinforces the illusion that they matter, that they have influence, that they can still reach inside you and pull strings. So what happens when the super empath no longer reacts? When the tears stop, when the voice is calm, the eyes are clear, and the door is closed, not in drama, but in peace. That's when everything starts to crumble for the narcissist, because silence to a narcissist is terrifying. Detachment is deadly. They can't control peace. They can't twist it. They can't feed off it. It doesn't give them the chaos they crave. And when an empath becomes unbothered, it sends one loud message: you no longer have power here. That message doesn't even have to be spoken. It's felt. and it burns deeper than any insult could. Now, people often confuse being unbothered with being cold, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an earned peace, a peace that was fought for, a peace that came after storm after storm after storm, betrayal after betrayal, manipulation wrapped in I love yous. I'm talking about the kind of peace that rises when you finally realize you're not responsible for fixing someone who keeps breaking you. That's not apathy, that's wisdom. And the narcissists, they hate it because now they're locked out. Not physically, emotionally, spiritually, they can no longer reach into your soul and cause confusion. They can no longer send a text and expect a response. They can't bait you with guilt or play the victim. You've evolved beyond their reach. You've become so grounded in your self-worth, your vision, your truth, that their games don't even make it past your awareness. That evolution, that quiet transformation is what makes the super empath so powerful. Because it doesn't come with fireworks. It comes in stillness, in presence, in the way they stop over-explaining, the way they stop defending themselves, the way they smile and walk away instead of staying to argue. Narcissists expect conflict. They need conflict. But what they can't process is neutrality, indifference, that I've outgrown this energy. It's not loud, but it's final. Now let's take it even further. A narcissist will always try to re-enter your life at some point. They'll circle back when they feel weak, when their supply is running dry, when the mask starts slipping. They come back with flattery, fake apologies, promises of change, but they don't come back because they love you. They come back because they miss the reflection you gave them. They miss the light they once stole from you. But by the time the super empath is truly unbothered, that door isn't just closed, it's locked. It's bricked up and the address has changed. And that's where the narcissist begins to self-destruct. Because remember, without someone to validate their false self, they collapse. They become frantic. They start reaching for attention anywhere they can find it, often in shallow, surface-level relationships that feel good for a moment, but leave them emptier than before. Because nothing compares to what they had with the super empath. Not because the empath made them feel powerful, but because the empath made them feel seen. And now that mirror is gone. The reflection has disappeared. And all that's left is the truth, a truth they can't stand to look at. But here's what's beautiful. The super empath doesn't need revenge. They don't need to post subliminal messages or try to win the breakup. Their peace is enough. Their glow is loud. Their healing is public, even when it's quiet. People start noticing. Energy doesn't lie. And while the narcissist is busy searching for someone to replace what they lost, the super empath is living, creating, loving themselves in a way they never did before. That's the real win. Because let's be honest, revenge is temporary. Petty satisfaction fades, but becoming unbothered, that's permanent. That's the kind of victory that keeps paying you back in joy, in clarity, in opportunities, in relationships that are actually reciprocal. The narcissist thought you were weak because you loved deeply. But your strength wasn't in your pain, it was in how you rose from it. The best way to destroy a narcissist is not with rage, not with retaliation, it's with evolution. It's with silence, stillness, boundaries, and unapologetic peace. Because the moment you stop reacting, they stop existing in your world. And the louder your peace gets, the quieter their influence becomes, until one day they're just a lesson and you're the person you were always meant to be. That's how a super empath ends the story, not with revenge, but with freedom.